The James Show Podcast.
So we have Donald Trump saying that he's going to be taking his new National Guard operation, where they've figured out how to quell the unrest in major American inner cities. And he's going to expand that operation to Chicago. He said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, hasn't asked for it. In fact, explicitly speaks out against it. We don't need it. We're safe. This is an overreach. This is unconstitutional. The mayor of Chicago not asking for it either. In fact, actively rejecting it, saying it's racist or just literally Hitler, whatever. But look, there may be a process argument against this, but there is not a human argument against this. Lives have been saved in D.C., and not just, saved from being murdered, saved from being shot and surviving, saved from being carjacked, saved from being, armed robbery, mugged. And if they can do it in D.C., maybe they can do it in Chicago. And if they can do it in Chicago, isn't it worth a try? Hey, let's just give it a 30-day run. Let's give it a month. Let's give it 60 days maybe. And then if it works, here's the real scary part from J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. It's not that even necessarily that it makes Trump look good, it's that it makes them look bad. They've been running around telling you, defund the police. We don't need the police. And now they've been saying this isn't going to work. Well, what happens if it does work? What happens if the people figure out, well, if you just put a few thousand people on the streets, then you have them armed with guns to keep the peace, then maybe we're safer with more men roaming the streets with guns, and that would upset another part of their societal misgivings. Oh, guns are scary. No, they're not. You thought the whole time we needed less guns in the inner cities, we just needed more guns in the hands of good guys. Ooh. Because what if the people in Chicago are seeing the same social media that you're seeing? I saw in my social media feed this morning, I think Elon Musk had retweeted this. Was it Elon? I saw him. Anyway, there is a guy who says that he's a D.C. resident. He looks like he's in his 20s, and it looks like he's walking in D.C., and he's bragging about how awesome it is. He's bragging about how he can walk down the street, his own street, in the middle of the night, and he can wear his chains, and he can have his watch that's all shiny and iced out. And he doesn't have to worry about being robbed. He doesn't have to worry about being mugged. He doesn't have to worry about anyone giving him a hard time. Doesn't have to worry about gunshots. And if there is a problem, all he has to do is yell, help! And someone will show up, and they'll show up pretty quick. And if enough people see enough stuff like this, how could you possibly say the Donald Trump intervention in D.C. is wrong? You don't even have a constitutional argument there.
I'm going to scream. They're going to be here in 33 seconds. So what you talking about? Get that shit up. Ah! Help! They gonna help the shit out of me. Y'all jump out of y'all want. Good God almighty, boy. I got some motherfucking help. Some backup. For real, you jump out. I'm gonna blow your ass. Look, they right here.
There's cops in the background right there. He's loving it. Look, there's cops here. This is great. I can walk down the street with my chain on. Don't have to worry about anything. If I need help, there's help. This is great. That's amazing to see. You know how amazing it is to see after the years and years of one-sided reporting in the news and the propaganda? It's just not working anymore. You've been told that there's been a concerted effort to make especially inner city Americans think that police are just bloodthirsty racist monsters out to kill them for sport based on some sort of pre-existing racist animus. Turns out you have more of these guys on your street. Things get better. This is the lesson that they had to be scared for their own people to learn. What if they find out the cops really don't hate them? Yeah, keep digging. Because if you do, you're going to find out the overwhelming majority, probably 95% of white people aren't racist, and we don't care about your skin tone. You're going to find out that gun owners, we don't want children to die. And it's going to turn out that the people who like tax cuts, we're not trying to transfer money to the rich people. All these things, these lies, once one of them gets knocked over, it's almost like a row of dominoes. Because if you start questioning that, if you find out that, hey, we were told the economy's going to crash by now. We were told in June, and then we were told again in January when Trump got inaugurated. We were told again in April when we had a little bit of downturn that the market's crashing. Now we're at all-time highs. You were told Biden was sharp as a tack right until he dropped out. Maybe they're going to find out that, the same people that lied about the masks working, the lockdowns working, and the COVID origin story, maybe they got all that wrong. Maybe they're getting this other stuff wrong, too. Maybe they're wrong about the National Guard coming into our neighborhood. Maybe they're wrong about some of these other things. Keep digging. I really like the specter of this. I think some good things might actually come out of this. Well, it's nice being America in 2025. We are the unchallenged hyperpower of the world, and no one could stand up to us. No one could beat us in a war. No one could beat us in a trade war. No one could beat us in a shooting war. No one can beat us in a Super Bowl. I know that's kind of like a joke. I mean, shut up. But there is a concern that what if the two most populous countries got together and they teamed up with the country that's technologically most advanced besides America, and I would argue Russia, just based on their space program. Who else has got a space station that we've been working with? If anything, they're the closest thing we've ever had to a co-equal superpower. Of course, we haven't been buying that delusion since the early 90s, but they're the closest thing we got. So what if all three of them ganged up and decided to make an anti-America alliance? Should you be concerned? My next guest, James Varney from Real Clear Politics, going to discuss just that because they're having a summit. And Varney, welcome back to the James Show. Should we be concerned about India, Russia, and China teaming up?
Well, thanks for having me, James. I don't think so. This doesn't strike me as some kind of giant trade deal. And you just were saying that you think that Russia is second to us. I think you probably would put China ahead of Russia because when you think about it, and speaking of trade, what do you have that's Russian? Nobody gets Russian cars. Nobody gets Russian tech. There's nothing Russia manufactures. All Russia has is energy that they export. And it's been funding Putin all this time. And Putin's just a KGB thug, right? And what I think is interesting is that you see all these people that are all worried about the fact that the Indian premier and Putin and Xi are in this conference in China that you just mentioned. And part of the problem and what's partly driving them together is us trying to not get people to buy Russian energy, which again is all Russia has really to export. And so if Trump is such a puppet of Putin, why would he be trying to punish these people for getting Russian energy? So that argument falls apart. But I really don't think that, aside from China, that this is a trade bloc that would stand up to us. So I don't think it's something to really pull our hair out over.
Well, I think one of the concerns that we should have about this is if they decided to make their own little, triple entente, that would kind of make them impervious to some of our trade power, our ability to throw in tariffs or, blockade some, not physically, but blockade some trade or cut off trade with people, or we're not going to get any more rare earth minerals, or if we want to try and cut off their oil or something, that would make them impervious to our attempts at making, diplomatic advances through trade policy.
You're right. I mean, that could be an issue. I mean, India is really the only country of those three that I consider at all an ally of ours. And when I was younger, probably when you were just coming out of diapers, there used to be this thing called non-aligned countries. They fancied themselves as somehow independent of the United States or the Soviet Union. This is back during the Cold War. And India was one of the big players in that. So depending on who's running India and how leftist they might be, they've always sort of tried to be their own thing. And I do recognize that India and China are huge, huge markets. I mean, my God, what do they have between them? Something like a third of the world's population or something?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how much Russia hurts us. As I pointed out a moment ago, I think that energy exports is essentially running their economy. And we've seen that Putin doesn't care about the price he's paying in blood for Ukraine. So it's just treasure. And I don't know what kind of obstacles, to be 100% sure what kind of obstacles they have already in place in India and China in terms of us penetrating them as markets. So what are we losing here that we have now? Not much, as far as I can tell.
All right. We're talking with James Varney from Real Clear Politics. Right as the James Show started today, other James, Donald Trump was asked about going into Chicago, using the National Guard like he did in D.C., but for Chicago. And he said, now it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. What do you think about Trump going into Chicago? Do you think he has the constitutional ability to do it, or you think he should do it?
I think that's a much more open question than it was with Washington, D.C., right? I mean, Washington, D.C. wasn't even a city with its own mayor until I want to say like 1973 or something like that. So it is a federal entity by the Constitution. That was fine. Some of this stuff with Trump, you never know if he's just sort of firing off the cuff to rile up his opponents and his base at the same time. I think that it was one thing back when Tom Cotton, you might remember, wrote that op-ed in the New York Times saying that we should send the National Guard in during the BLM riots, and that caused this huge shakeup. It actually cost the page editor at the New York Times his job for publishing a op-ed piece by a sitting U.S. senator on something that many Americans supported. So doing it in Chicago would be something similar, except that I don't see some kind of singular event happening like the BLM riots. It's just out of control crime. It's been that way for a while now in Chicago. So I'm not 100% sure that he does have the constitutional authority to just do it. We've seen presidents of both parties say that something is an emergency. And this goes through a wide spectrum of things, not just crime or law and order. And they declare an emergency, and that gives them these powers. So I suspect that's what Trump is talking about doing here. But you and I both know there's going to be court challenges. And I don't think it's nearly as tight a case for him as it was definitely in D.C. and even in L.A., which he did earlier this year, you might remember, for ICE stuff.
Yeah, and a judge overturned that, and I found that kind of disappointing, seeing as how he sent in the National Guard just to protect ICE agents and federal buildings, and so they didn't go around arresting people or assisting the cops, and even that was found unconstitutional. It's like, dude, what are we, judge shopping this?
Well, yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, right?
Right.
All right.
And they'll do that here as well. But I do think there is a constitutional question with this in Chicago. I don't know how the appeals courts and the Supremes might come down deciding this. I know they'll find a district judge somewhere, probably not, or probably in Chicago, actually, to say this is unconstitutional, and then we'll go from there. But I think there is also this question, all the nonsense we hear about Trump's authoritarian and Trump's a fascist and Trump's a dictator. And of course, he's the only fascist dictator that ever tried to shrink government. But this gives them just another little plank to yell and scream about. So I'd be interested to see what the people in Chicago think about this. You know, not a poll like that bogus Washington Post poll about what people in D.C. think about this, but an honest poll about whether or not Chicago residents are in favor of this. Because remember, it's the African-American communities that are getting hurt the most by this crime. So taking steps to combat it would help them. And that, you think, might bring a few more people on board.
All right, this is James Varney from Real Clear Politics. What you got going on at the website these days?
We got a lot going on. Everybody should go there and check out some of the stories we've had in the last several days. I'm going to be doing something about nuclear power and the role it's going to play in the near future. But there's always something up there every day that's worth looking at.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. This is James Varney from Real Clear Politics. But first, we talk to Rick in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What's up, Rick?
Right on. Great show.
Thanks.
I was born in Woodstock, raised in Rockford and Chicago, so I can, whatever you want to know, I can tell you. But one thing I will tell you for sure, all my friends that are still there, they can't wait for Trump to get there and clean it up, because they've been waiting for somebody to get there and do something about the corruption that's so intertwined there.
All right, question. Are these people who already support Donald Trump?
Some do, some don't.
Yeah, it doesn't count if they already support Donald Trump. It would be interesting if people's minds were being changed. That would be a newsworthy endeavor here, because it's hard to see how at least some minds aren't changed by a situation like this. Like for the people who were living in D.C. and look, I've lived in some rough cities and I've had to hear gunshots out my window and whatnot. For these people who for the first time in their life have gone 2 weeks without hearing gunshots, for 2 weeks without having a murder somewhere in their backyard, you've got to think, even if they don't want to say it in public or out loud, people are being converted by this.
Well, I will tell you this, though. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. If you're being shot at or you have a relative or a friend that's been shot and killed, you want something done. And that's what's happening. And that's what's been happening for such a long time, that people are just tired of it. And they need help there. And I guarantee you Trump is going to gain favor when he gets in there and does what he needs to do. I know that for sure.
Do you have any qualms about the constitutionality of Trump taking over the law enforcement prerogative of a major American city besides D.C.?
Well, I would question as well, what about the corruption that's so intertwined with the Democrats and liberals running that city that have ran it against the Constitution and the corruption that goes with it? So where's the balance? I mean,
well, there's some who would say that if you're going to keep electing the people who make your town trash, you're just getting what you deserve.
Yeah, well, who is it? Who is it that deserves it? I seem to think that nobody deserves it. So if you have if you have such a corrupt voting system there in Illinois, which they do, we have to do something for the people that can't help themselves. And if we go in there and help the people temporarily, their eyes may be wiped clean of the corruption that they've been seeing and the pain that they've been enduring, that they may see something more clear and give them hope for a brighter future in Chicago and Illinois as a whole.
Oh, that's nice and optimistic. Great call. Thank you very much. This is Rick in Dallas, everybody. Appreciate you calling in.
Thank you.
All right, now let's address this. I know. Thank you, studio audience. Let's address this internet rumor. You're probably not as terminally online as me. I'm just as bad as your kids. I always have my face in the phone. So I was very annoyed over the weekend by a trending topic because I felt like this was being pushed. And there was this concern over Trump's health. And you may have heard was that a month ago when they did the chronic venous insufficiency diagnosis because there was a picture taken of his ankles and they were swollen and, oh my God, what's that? Is he about to die? No, he's just having blood pooling in his extremities because he's an old dude, okay? Good Lord. And then there's some bruises on the back of his hands. And there was another internet uproar of, oh my God, see, I told you he's dying. What is he hiding? He must be battling cancer or some sort of, having heart attacks or strokes. He's got something going on. He may die any second now. We really got to be concerned about the president's health. Mind you, these were the people that were not concerned about Joe Biden's health. But it went a little further than that. I did a little digging, and I follow a lot of accounts and threads and groups that are Team Blue, even to a wacky degree. I kind of enjoy it because I'm a sicko. But there was an internet rumor that was predicated on a Simpsons episode that was being passed around. Now, check this out. This is one of the things that really got people ramped up on this.
The president is expected to die in August 2025 after a severe chest illness. The Simpsons predicted it. A forgotten episode of The Simpsons, aired over 15 years ago, is now resurfacing, and it might be the show's most disturbing prediction yet. In the episode, a controversial president with bright orange skin, golden hair, and a volatile temper is shown walking alone through the White House. Suddenly, he clutches his chest, visibly in pain, and collapses during a live national broadcast. Panic erupts. Medical staff rush in. One shouts, "This wasn't just stress, this was a sign." Fast forward to 2025. Rumors swirl in Washington that the real-life president has been secretly suffering from chest pain and heart-related issues. Sources inside the government claim a major heart attack could occur in August this year. The resemblance to the episode is chilling, far too precise to dismiss. Stranger still, the episode was pulled from syndication. It disappeared from streaming services. Some believe it was deliberately hidden. The president is expected.
Yeah. Okay, so then it's just repeating. But oh my goodness, the president's supposed to die. I think you probably caught in there that it was August of 2025 when The Simpsons predicted he would die. Just to set the record straight, All of that's a lie. There was no Simpsons episode that predicted Trump's death. There's no Simpsons episode about any prediction like that that's been pulled from the streaming platforms or from syndication. That whole part is made up. Now, the kernel of truth is the Simpsons have had an unbelievable streak on their predictions. They predicted the Donald Trump presidency way before it happened, and complete with him coming down the golden escalator. They predicted the underwater submarine crushing. They predicted the purple pantsuits on Kamala Harris. There's the purple pantsuit episode where Lisa becomes the first female president, and she's wearing the exact same suit Kamala was wearing with the exact same necklace Kamala was wearing when she was sworn in as vice president or something to that effect. But they've made a lot of good predictions. This isn't one of them. This isn't one. There's no Simpsons episode like that. So why did this get so popular? Why was this being passed around on something that's easily debunked with a simple Google search? These people have been conditioned, brainwashed if you want to call it, to hate Trump so much that Trump death porn makes them feel good. You know, in a world of cognitive dissonance where nothing matches your worldview, and this finally something does, you cling to it. You have a confirmation bias. It's like, I knew it. I knew he's a terrible person that was on death, or maybe they just hoped he was. But Trump derangement syndrome has broken some people. Trump derangement syndrome is something that and it's not endemic to Trump. They had Bush derangement syndrome, and whoever comes after Trump, they're going to have that derangement syndrome too. But whatever this derangement syndrome that they've got going on, this is a real disorder. I mean, this is something that it deserves to be in the textbooks. It was so easy to just do a couple of searches and prove that wrong. And it was one of the top 10 trending topics over the weekend on some platforms. Insane. We live in insane times. But first, let's talk to Michael in Irving. You're on WBAP. What's on your mind, Michael?
Thank you. I wanted to say that I disagree with you a little bit on this Trump health issue. I don't think it's Trump derangement syndrome. I think it's Trump desperation syndrome, because the left is so desperate for an idea that gets traction against him, since they're on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue, that they're just throwing anything out there and hoping it sticks. So it's not derangement, it's desperation, because if they don't think they're desperate, they ought to think that, because they're so far behind the power curve on just about everything.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong in your assessment on why they're doing it. I'm not sure if I would call it desperation, because it's not like, well, we tried everything else and now we're just resorting to personal attacks. The personal attacks were there from the jump, from the very beginning. So this has been going on. Like, think of it like this, Michael and Irving. How many times have the people who have Trump derangement system, the people who actually believe all that garbage, how many times have they been told Trump's going to go to prison? They've been told that he's just months away, weeks away from prison for like a decade now.
Yeah, he's gonna go to prison, and he's gonna run for a third term, and he's gonna be a dictator, and all the other lies they've been told.
Well, I mean, some of them have to be snapping out of it, though. I mean, they were told that he would go to prison like 100 times. Like, oh, he's going to be in prison any day now. It'll be for the Stormy Daniels thing. It'll be for the E. Jean Carroll thing. It'll be for the Letitia James thing. It'll be for the Georgia vote, whatever thing that they had. You know, they had the 90-something charges in 4 different jurisdictions and a couple of civil suits going on against them. And when you train them to expect that someone's going to be punished and they don't get punished, these people get upset and they just need the next thing, because like they hate this guy so much. Please, something bad happened to him. And you just give them that glimmer of hope, like, well, maybe he's having some medical issues. And they just jump on it like a magnet, just snapping onto the refrigerator. They're like, I believe this now. That's right. He's got health problems. Please, God, I hope he dies soon.
Absolutely. You and me will agree to agree.
Yeah, right. Agree to agree. We should use that more instead of agree to disagree. I like that. Yes, Michael, your call was very combobulated. It was very well put together. Thank you. All right. Well, look, we'll get into some of the new laws that we have to live by in Texas coming up. And the problem is, just generally speaking, is there's, I think, over 100 new laws that we all have to live by. Did you get a list of them? Did I get a list of them? We have to, what are we supposed to do? Go out, seek this out, memorize it, and then adjust our life accordingly? Nobody does that. And there's just something inherently unethical about living in a system where you're forced to live by a number of laws that any one person couldn't possibly keep up with. That's not the rule of law. That's not what that means. And that's not a fair way to arrange society. If you can't do your taxes by yourself, then the tax code's too complicated. Anyway, we'll go over some of the new rules next that we all have to live by here in Texas just because yesterday was September 1st. Find out next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.